Welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show, where we believe that growth could come in many forms: professional, personal, company, sales, you name it. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, founder of Transcendent Sales Solutions and a guide to a world of growth possibilities. I've spent my career empowering companies and their people with strategies that accelerate growth. I'm here to bring you stories of these business leaders and their trusted advisors to gain insights into their journeys and learn how they fuel their own growth. Just maybe their journey could become part of your own growth story. Are you ready? Let's grow. Welcome to the next episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I'm excited to have my next guest here today. Brett Virgin is the practice leader for Pinnacle Executive Benefits. Utilizing more than 20 years of employee and executive benefit consulting, Brett helps businesses and individuals navigate important financial decisions concerning retirement planning, group insurance, as well as supplemental disability and life insurance. Brett, welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show.
Thanks, Dan. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here, man. You know, you and I have got to know each other over the last few years. And one of the things there's so many things I respect about you. You are one of the most chill people that I've met. You are just calm, cool, and collected. And it's one of the many things I love about you.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know if my family would say that.
And, you know, the thing is you're a Midwesterner too. You know, us Midwesterners are a little bit hyped up when we come to the South. And you're from a small time in Indiana, if I remember. You're from Evansville, correct?
Well, yeah, that's correct. I was born there and then grew up in a town outside of the metropolitan area of Evansville called Newburgh.
Okay.
Which was
the metropolitan area.
Coal mines and farmland, a lot of pig farming, coal mining, and actually it was home of Alcoa, their world's largest plant, sat on the Ohio River.
And that's pretty much, there was probably the biggest employer there as well, I'm guessing.
It's one of them.
One of them. And you broke out after high school and went to Bloomington, went to Indiana University, correct?
Absolutely.
So when you started college, I saw a degree in economics and journalism. Kind of what was the plan for you when you were in college? Were you going to be a writer, or what were you kind of thinking at that time?
Well, when I first went to college, I thought I was going to be an accountant. And then I took Accounting 101 and realized very quickly I was not going to be an accountant. And I had one of my first semesters, I think it was microeconomics 103 or whatever. And I loved it. And I got it. I had Krishna Rush, I can't remember his last name. But it was the first time. I mean, I grew up in a very small town. I had never seen a person from India. And he and I connected real well. At that point in time, I decided I was going to be an economic major. And so I went to the counselors, did all this. The counselor said, "That's great. You need to have a minor." I said, "Oh, I was an editor in my high school newspaper. I'll just minor in journalism. That'll be easy." And that's without any regard to the esteemed Ernie Pyle Hall School of Journalism at Indiana. So I walked in and said, "Yeah, I need to do a minor in journalism." And I got this look like, "We don't do minors in the journalism school." I'm like, "Okay, well then I'll major in it. I'll just do a double major." They looked at me like I was crazy. They said, "Well, you have to apply to get in." So I went through the process and obviously ended up with both economics and journalism as a degree. I was probably the most conservative person in the school of journalism. And I remember being in class and someone said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And everybody would go around, "I want to be a reporter for this," or "I want to be on TV." I said, "I'd like to own the newspaper. Thank you."
Well, and the funny thing is you had to be, and it's fascinating because you had to be accepted into the School of Journalism, and now anybody can be a journalist. All you need to do is have a cell phone and start taking video, and you're a journalist now.
Correct.
How things have changed.
It's different.
What brought you to Atlanta almost 30 years ago?
Well, it was after I graduated. I put on a map and I said, I'm not going to stay in Southern Indiana. I'm going to go to a big city. I want to go to concerts. I want to go to sporting events. I want to get out of here. And it was really strange. There were 5 cities. I targeted Atlanta, Dallas, Denver, San Diego, and Seattle. And you go back 30 years ago, I think I hit that on the mark for growth consideration. But Atlanta was the first place I ended up, and that's where I went. So I moved from Indiana to Atlanta with everything I owned in my car and started. I bought a bed 6 months after I got here.
So when you got here, my understanding from our conversations is you started actually in sales. You were in printer sales and did some work with ADP, correct?
Correct. The first place I started was with a Danish-owned printing company that had been in business. I was there when we celebrated the 200th anniversary of the company. And there I started in sales and did marketing, business analytics, a little bit of everything. And they were moving me more into the business analytics marketing side, and I wanted to be in sales. So I ended up going to ADP, which was a fantastic move. It was a great, great place. So I worked at ADP for a few years and then left there to really get into what became the employee benefit business.
You know, one of the things about ADP is like some of the other bigger companies, they have probably a really good training program and development program to help you.
That's correct. And it was, I always viewed it as, well, this is pretty much common sense. But it did give me a track. And I was I think I started at ADP in 95. And at that point in time, ADP just figured out, hey, we need to go make relationships with banks. We need to make relationships with CPAs. Well, my sales territory was Fulton County Stadium to Griffin down 75, which was pretty much farmland and nothing. So you look back in 95, in 96, I was down at the local bank celebrating when the torch was running through town as a VIP guest. So I took that to heart all those years ago, which was developing relationships. So one of the CPAs that I worked with there is still someone I work with today. So their firm and I have had a relationship since 95, which is pretty phenomenal.
Well, you've been in the benefits industry for 27 years. What was your decision and what guided you from an ADP career into the benefits side?
Sure. So when I was at ADP, they had just started doing 401k plans. And I don't know what it was, but I had this obsession with 401k plans. Well, I ended up leaving ADP to go work at a investment firm called J.C. Bradford, which was headquartered out of Nashville. And I started doing retirement plans for companies. J.C. Bradford went through a few mergers. It was bought by Payne Weber. Then it was bought by, Payne Weber was bought by UBS. I ended up leaving the investment firm to go to a company called Mass Mutual. So Mass Mutual had a big 401k presence. And the majority of my business was working with companies' 401ks. And I remember it was a weird day. I think this was in 99. And I had just got done setting up a 401k plan, doing enrollments for their employees. The owner of the company came and said, "You've done such a great job on this 401k. Can you do our health insurance?" And at the time, I thought, I never heard of anybody doing health insurance. I thought, sure, let me call you about it tomorrow. I went back and I said, hey, can we do health insurance? So I said, no, Mass Mutual, we don't do health insurance anymore. You should call this person. There's a gentleman by the name of Archie Lowe, and he'll work it with you. So I called this guy, and at the time I just had two babies. I had this car that was just a junk car, and he loves telling this story. And I roll up to his office with two baby seats in the back of the car, and just I said, look, let's go do this. And that was the beginning of really getting into employee benefits. So soon after that, and it kind of took off. So I had all these friends at ADP that were selling payroll. This was before they had their PEO. And we'd go in together. They would do payroll, and we would do the benefits. And that's really where it started. So things kind of go full circle for me from ADP. Somewhere else, back to ADP. Those relationships from ADP from 95, 96, I still have today, and we all still work together in different formats, which is pretty phenomenal. So the benefits business for me really started at that point where I got to go with an industry leader, an expert, and we ended up becoming partners. And we partnered for 20 years.
And you've had several benefits businesses I know of. What are some things you've learned along the way as a business owner and entrepreneur that's really been keys to your success?
Well, I think the ability to change and to understand that change is going to happen and that you need to change with it. And so when I started with health insurance, for instance, and this will probably blow you away, Dan, there were 15 different health insurance carriers. So when I went to a company, it was 15, not the 4 that we have today. So today we have Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, and throw in Kaiser. Back then it was 15 companies. So there was a lot more competition, so on and so forth. So that was a big change in the business. The other part is the technology. I used to go to every company to talk to all their employees. Now most of it's done through Zoom or recorded video. But you have to change. And I think when you look at something over time, the ability to adapt to where things are at that time is crucial.
Let's take a moment for a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Growth Catalyst Show was brought to you by Transcendent Sales Solutions. Whether your company is facing uncertainty, declining sales, or resource limitations, Transcendent Sales has the solution. Their team has decades of experience helping businesses find alignment to meet their growth goals and transforming underperforming sales organizations into revenue-producing market leaders. They take a hands-on, results-oriented approach to solving sales challenges. Visit transcendentsales.com to learn more and subscribe to the bi-weekly Growth Catalyst newsletter for insightful growth strategies. Transcendent Sales Solutions, empowering businesses to reach new heights. And now back to the show. You spend a lot of time working with business owners on supplemental disability for highly compensated people. What does that really mean? I mean, explain that a little bit.
Well, sure. So in group benefits, you're going to have what's called a basic group long-term disability plan. And you may sound, and what people hear is, oh, the company provides me a disability plan that if I become disabled through injury or sickness, I'm going to get 60% of my income as if I become disabled. Well, the problem is what they don't read is to a monthly maximum of, let's just say $12,000. So you're going to get 60% of your income, but that's going to cap out at $12,000. So if you make more than $240,000 a year, you're not going to get 60% of your income. So let's just say you make 300,000. You're going to get 60% of 300,000 would be 15, right? Well, you're not getting that. You're only going to get 12. So what I do for companies is we do an analysis, one of an income analysis, and we look at if there's any gaps. So you might have, I'll give you an example. I've got a company that has 2,000 employees. Well, we constructed a group plan that took care of all their employees except 17. So out of 2,000 employees, 17 were not covered at the 60% level that the other employees were. So we ended up putting in individual disability insurance. Okay. That individual disability insurance raised their monthly maximum for them in particular is $15,000 to $25,000 a month.
Because you did it on an individual plan.
We do it on an individual plan. And then what I do is I'll negotiate guaranteed issue amounts and discounts. So every person that hits that mark that needs additional insurance, they're going to get it without having to go through underwriting. So they may have some back issues. They may have cancer. They may have issues. We're going to go through that. They're going to get it at a discounted rate. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be accepted. So if you go to me through one of those programs that I put together, it's going to be less than if you come to me individually.
Now, clarification, you're not doing employee like health benefits anymore. You're not in the health insurance part of the business anymore, are you? Or
that's, well, what's interesting is when I talk to companies, mm-hmm. the conversation comes up. So what I do is I'll say, I sold that business in 2018, but I know everybody that's in that business. Let me set you up with someone who could better serve you. So I move them somewhere else. Because a lot of times what I'll find in just the group disability plan is a lot of errors. Mm-hmm. So they think they have something that they really don't. So I have different employee benefit brokers that I work with that I'll bring in to help them.
Now, do you work with individual as well, or do you work just with companies?
I do. So when you're working with I'll give you a law firm, for example. If I'm working with a law firm and all of a sudden I'm helping these partners at the law firm with either life or disability, supplemental life or disability, we will end up having conversations and they'll say, hey, can you help me with my personal or something like that? Or eventually I'll get a phone call. I do a lot of that. So I do a lot of key person insurance. So if a company has a person that's key to the company, if something happens to them, they need to have some type of monetary benefit. So I get to know these people quite well, and they'll go, hey, I don't have enough of this on me personally. Can you help me there? So I do. Or I have friends that'll call and say, I need help with this. So of course I can. I do a lot of it, actually.
Okay. What about, we work with a lot of owners that are thinking about an exit. Nothing lasts forever, right? How are business owners, and I'm fascinated to learn, how are they to use like insurance to really help them prepare for their exit? If they're thinking about, if they're thinking about selling their business.
Sure. Well, in particular, I always look at a smaller company where the owner of the business is the business, right?
Lifestyle business.
They're the business. And the problem is you have an owner of a business who's making really good money, but if they leave that business, it's really not worth a whole lot. So what I do is outside of your normal 401k or SEP IRA, I help put together supplemental retirement. And so depending on the makeup of the company, there's different things that we could do. So you could do defined benefit plans, you could do SERPs, you could do non-qualified type plans. You can do a bonus plan. It all depends on the tax structure of your company. But what we'll do is we'll look at this and say, okay, how can we use life insurance to do two things? One, if I'm the business owner and the business is heavily involved on me, what happens to my family if I unfortunately die? Where's the income coming from? Because you're not going to get a lot of money on a sale. So you need to have money there to cover those costs. You could look at that as a key person policy. You could look at it as individual. You could use insurance. Life insurance has a beautiful tax code around it. So you can overfund life insurance and have that invested in an index where it's going to increase over time. Interestingly enough, there's ways to take your cash that you've overfunded in these policies, you could take it out tax-free. So if you think about it, something like an enhanced Roth IRA, put money into something, let it grow tax-free, take out tax-free money, which, by the way, if you put money into a 401k and you do it for 5 years, your beneficiary is going to get the 5 years worth of buildup. It really doesn't complete the retirement. Whereas life insurance, you're going to have more of a completion of a retirement plan, if that makes sense. So if you have an early demise, let's say you've been doing it for 5 years, well, you may have only put in $100,000 where the life insurance may be worth $3 million. So it self-completes.
What are some of the things you've been working on lately?
So my day, every day is really different. One of the things that I've been working on lately is I have a CPA came to me and said, look, I've got a guy, he owns too much of a business. He can't put away enough money in a 401k due to control rules. What can you do on a supplemental basis to help him put more away for retirement? So we ended up putting together, he had a C corporation, and we ended up doing an executive bonus plan for him. So he was taking money, put it into this plan, got to write off for that amount that he was putting in the plan, put that into a plan to help him generate, when he's 66, $100,000 a year of tax-free benefit. And then another thing that I'm working on, I got a call, and the call was, hey, we have this company. We need key person insurance on this owner. We need workers' comp. We need this. We need that. I don't do workers' comp. So I have a quiver of people. I called one up and said, workers' comp, you got to get today. Let's get that fired up. I called my friend Dean Robertson, and he got that taken care of that day with a binder. So a lot of times people will call me with a lot of things, and I become a resource to them because I know where to go for different things. So, it could be that someone called and said, hey, our health insurance broker hasn't called us. Our renewal is, January 1. Here we are in October, and we have no idea where we are. Well, that was a national footprint law firm with offices in 20 states. Their broker hadn't talked to them about their renewal. A renewal of that sort for health insurance should be done in June and July. They hadn't talked to them in October. So I said, let me find someone for you that will be better off and help you. Well, the other broker came back and said, I got it from 20% down to 18% on your renewal. The people I put in there took the exact same thing, negotiated it down to a 5% increase. So they didn't have to change their carrier. They got better service, and it saved them money. So I got nothing, no benefit out of that, except a lot of pats on the back from my client and the other broker.
I bet you. But that kind of savings, that's more than some pats on the back, man. That's huge money for that many employees.
Yeah. So
that's what
I'm working on lately.
One of the things that's amazing about insurance is I think people, it's not something, and I speak as a business owner myself, I think about too much. I feel like sometimes insurance is reactionary in the fact that you hear something happen to somebody or you read something in the news and then you kind of go in panic mode. You see a lot of that?
All the time. I had I had a company. It was a big law firm. They had one of their partners had a major accident. So, this guy was making a couple $1 million a year, had a horrendous accident where he has cognitive impairment, paralysis, loss of eye, the worst of the worst. And it's amazing the phone calls I got. Well, we need to do this now. Now we need to do things that I had been talking to them about doing for many years. All of a sudden, okay, we need to do that now. We need to get this taken care of now. We got to do this. So I do run into those situations quite a bit. The big one that I see is long-term care. So, I look at it and know I've got, my parents and I've got my wife's parents and the things that we're going through. I sit there and think about these things. So I know that other people that are my age who have parents that are, struggling, they're looking at it and they're saying, okay, I need to get this. I need to get long-term care. I need to have this. So I see that one's the biggest shock value of insurance.
Be proactive, definitely. My last question for you is, if somebody wants to learn more about Pinnacle Executive Benefits, how would they go about doing that? Right.
Well, you can start the website that we have. I think is it has a lot of resources, a lot of material on the topics that we discussed, and that's Pinnacle, PINNACLE -E Echo X X-ray B Bravo.com, and then you can always just call me 404-543-0442.
That's excellent. Brett, I want to thank you for taking some time and talking to us today about benefits. It's something, insurance, and I think it's something we all could learn from. And I appreciate you sharing some great knowledge with us and talking a little bit about your journey.
Well, I sure appreciate it, Dan. And always glad to hang out with you for a while. So that's fun.
Take care, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. Remember, you can take these stories of growth and make them part of your own journey. Learn from them, draw inspiration, and let them guide your path of growth. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I look forward to our next journey together. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep growing.